Welcome back to AMZ Affiliate Bootcamp. This is Module 8, all about selling your website. We're in Lesson 2, and we're going to cover preparing and listing your website for sale. Again, my name is Justin Cook, and I'm here with my business partner, Joe Magnotti. We run a company called Empire Flippers, where we help others buy and sell websites and online investments. All right, let's get into the lesson. What are buyers looking for? Now, as a seller, a potential seller, you need to start thinking about what buyers are actually looking for when they buy a website. And the first thing you need to understand is they look at this as cash flow. Your website prints money every month, and this ultimately needs to lead to a return on the buyer's investment. So if they're going to spend $40,000 or $60,000 or $150,000 buying your website, they want to know that the monthly returns they're going to get are eventually going to pay for the site, and then they're going to make a profit above and beyond that return.
Yeah, and that's extremely important and probably the number one thing that buyers get a little bit nervous about, especially if we're talking about something like it's going to take 2 years for them to recover their money. They want to know that they have a reasonable expectation that they can not only recover their capital that they invested, but make a return. And they have to make a rather large return for it to be worth it.
The second thing buyers are looking for is they're looking for easy to run websites. They're in luck with Amazon affiliate sites. As you know, they're relatively easy to run once they're up ranked and making money. And that's exactly why our buyers are hungry for Amazon affiliate sites. They know that they're relatively easy to run, and they can, run and own a portfolio of these sites, all running and working and making them money at the same time. The third thing buyers are looking for is they're looking to minimize their risk. And so they're not looking often for sites with sketchy backlink profiles, manufactured links, anything where it looks like not so great on the backlinks. And that's one of the great things about this course is you've learned quality backlinking strategies that will not be risky to buyers. The other risky thing that buyers are worried about are large swings in earnings. So that means, up 50% one month, down 80% the next month. If there's big swings in earnings, that looks a little risky for buyers. Now, of course, if we're talking about the Christmas season with Amazon affiliate sites, generally Amazon affiliate sites make a lot more during Christmas, and buyers understand that.
Buyers generally want to see a steady site. So even if your site is deeply on the increase, of course, that's better than at a declining asset. But in general, they want to see something that's fairly plateaued in its net profit.
All right, so let's look at some of the requirements for actually selling your Amazon affiliate site. The first thing, it needs to be making at least $300 per month in profit or more. It's not that people aren't somewhat interested in buying a $50 a month site. It's that it's really not worth the hassle. There is going to be a bit of hassle in submitting your information and tracking all of your information. For $50 a month or $150 a month, you really need to be a bit larger for buyers to invest and ultimately buy the site. You also need to have a site that's at least a year old. The thing is, especially with Amazon affiliate sites, people want to see an annual track record. They want to see each month how it did over the course of a year. If it's a year old or more, they can actually look at that information.
Yeah, you're going to find buyers that have very strict criteria. I only buy sites that are more than 3 years old, and I only buy sites that make $1,000 or more a month. And, on an individual basis, and that's something that we work through here at Empire Flippers to match up buyers with good sellers. But these are kind of the minimums we need in order to list you on our marketplace.
The other thing we're going to need is 6 months of earnings history at least, preferably 1 year. And what we mean by earnings history is that we're going to look back and take an average monthly net profit amount, right? We're going to need at least 6 months to do that. So if you've only got 3 months where your site has been earning $1,000 or more, and the 3 months before that was earning $200 or $300, we're going to have to take an average of the entire 6 months, which does mean your average monthly net profit is going to be a bit lower, right? So if you can get 6 months of solid track record, let's say $1,000 or more, 1 month's $1,000, next month is $1,100, next month is $1,050, that's perfectly fine. But if you're including months where the earnings weren't that high, that means you're going to get a slightly lower net profit, which means your sales price is going to be lower. So at least 6 months, 1 year is actually preferred. The last requirement for selling is there needs to be a reasonable assumption of future earnings. And this should be pretty obvious, but I wanted to point it out anyway. Let's say, for example, that your site was making $1,000 a month last month, but something happened to the site. It was offline for a week, or you lost rankings, or the algorithm changed and there were some changes that were made, and now it looks like it's going to be making about $200 a month. You're not going to be able to sell your site as if it were still earning $1,000 a month. Buyers aren't going to do that. In fact, you're going to have to wait at least 3 months, most likely 6 more months, to get a new track record, a new idea of how much the net monthly profit is before you're able to sell it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to remember there is you're not going to be able to remove any resources that deliver traffic or revenue to the site. So if you have a social standing, some sort of social traffic, and a Facebook page is delivering that, that's kind of going to need to be included in the sale. If you have any other sort of traffic sources that are outside of just Google Organic, and that's delivering that, you're not going to be able to replicate those and compete with the buyer.
And the last couple I'll mention is a reasonable assumption of future earnings means if future earnings at that level. If it's January and you're saying, look, November and December, I crushed it in earnings. My Amazon affiliate site was making $5,000 a month. Well, that's great. But if it's not likely to make $5,000 a month in January, February, March, you're not likely to get a valuation based on a $5,000 a month track record. All right, so let's move on to the next point. When should I start to prepare? And the best answer for that is right when you build the site. So it's really good that you took this course, and hopefully you're listening to this module pretty early into your site building process. Here are some of the things you're going to need to do from the beginning. The first thing is to install either Google Analytics or Clicky. Now, the reason we use Google Analytics or Clicky is because they're safe, secure, and very, very well known. Everyone knows how to manipulate or work with both of these companies, and they're the best for you to use.
Yeah, Google Analytics is really the gold standard of analytics systems out there. Most buyers really expect to see that when they do due diligence on a site. So it's something that you should seriously consider when you're installing an analytics program. It also allows you to share the data directly with them so they can run their own reports and know exactly what's going on with your website. This way, they don't have to depend on screenshots or screen share. They have direct access to the data.
I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but the other thing I'll tell you is that if you're using some kind of self-hosted analytics program, we generally don't accept that. And the reason for that is it can be manipulated, it can be tricked into showing different traffic than actually hit the site. And that's very impossible to do with Google Analytics or Clicky in general. The second thing you want to do is start tracking monthly on a spreadsheet or Google Doc your number of visits per month, or sessions as they're called in Google Analytics, your total revenue, meaning all the money you made from the site for any different monetization or all the different products purchased. You're going to want to track your expenses, right? So if you had any hosting expenses, you had to renew the domain or something like that. And then you're going to have your net profit per month. So revenue minus expenses for the month equals net profit. And then the last thing you're going to have on that spreadsheet are hours worked. This is really important for you too, because if you track it over time, what you'll normally see is you put a lot of hours into the sites early on. So early on in the process, you're putting a lot more time than later on. Once you've built the machine and once the machine is rolling, you notice yourself putting a lot less time into it. Buyers like to see that too. They like to see that you've done all the hard work in the beginning and it becomes less and less work and makes more and more money. That's where investors get excited. They say, oh, I don't have to do all that, the hours of work that they spent early on building the site. That's already out of the way. I'm now buying something that requires significantly less work. I think as you're building out the site and growing it, one of the things you should really focus on is your net profit month over month. Now that you have this Google Doc or spreadsheet and you're tracking January, February, March, you're looking month over month at sessions, you're looking at revenue, you're looking at expenses, you're looking at net profit. The most important piece there is your net profit. What does your net profit look like? Is it growing? Is it stable? What does it look like on a 6-month history, a 12-month history? And that will give you some idea in terms of where you're at and where you're going.
Yeah, and this is what buyers are going to look at as well. It helps us create what's called a P&L later on if you have these numbers available, and that's documentation that the buyer wants. And the easier you have access to the documentation, the faster we can get you listed, the more eyeballs we can have on your listing and your business, and the faster we can get you sold and get money in your pocket.
All right, Joe. So let's say it's over a year you've owned the site. You've got at least 6 months of earnings history. Things are going well. Things have leveled out. You're making about $2,000 a month. You say, you know what? It's time for me to sell. I want to cash out on this. I want a payday. And you say, Joe, what do I need to prepare? What kind of documents do I need? Let's cover those really quick. Right before you list, you're going to need to put this information together. The first thing is proof of ownership. So we at Empire Flippers need to know that you actually own the site.
Yeah, and that can be something as simple as a screenshot from your registrar that shows you own the domain, access, obviously, to Amazon Associates, which you can share with us so we can run reports. This kind of thing shows us that you actually own the website. If you're in a partnership or something like that, we do need a letter, something in writing from an email is fine, an email from your partner or other person that actually owns the domain showing that it's allowed to be sold.
The other thing you're going to need to put together are the site details. And this will include the day you started building the site, you bought the domain, you set up the site. You're going to need to include the traffic history. You're going to need to include just some basic information that you'll know or be able to look up relatively easily about the site. Next, you're going to need month-by-month earnings screenshots, and these are easily pulled from the Amazon Associates account.
Yeah, and so the month-by-month screenshots allow us to hand something over to interested buyers to show them initially and pique their interest, prove to them that you are consistently making net profit. Obviously, the Amazon Associates program also gives us the ability to directly connect to your account, and so people can run their own reports, but we still need these screenshots in order to provide some initial documentation showing net profit.
The next thing we're going to need from you is Google Analytics or Clicky access. So what you can do with Google Analytics or Clicky is allow us to access the data so that we can take a look and verify all the information, pull screenshots that are needed to help us with the listing so that we can get it listed and up for sale for potential buyers. Now here's something interesting. If you started building your site and you collected that information month over month, and that includes revenue, expenses, your net profit, the hours worked, and the visits per month, you can share that with us. It's basically a profit and loss for the business. That'll make things super simple. We can take that profit and loss and verify it against your earnings statements, your month-by-month screenshots, and your traffic information, because we now have access, and just make sure everything matches up. The reason why it's really important if you're selling your website that the numbers match up is if you make a mistake or we make a mistake and we're publishing information that doesn't match up, they're going to say, if you didn't even take the time to match up your earnings or to match up your traffic, what else are you missing? Like, what else is wrong here?
We've had third-party services come in and verify our listings because some buyers are not familiar with Empire Flippers and they want to double-check in place. And we're usually very accurate, down to a few percentage points of actual verified by a third party. And what this does is it provides trust to the buyer, and he knows that if that's right and you're good on a consistent basis, he's more likely to buy the site faster than in an endless cycle of questions, negotiations, and perhaps even lowering the price because he doesn't trust it at that level.
And the last thing you're going to need is a $297 listing fee. Now, the good news for you is it's waived for course members. So anyone like you that's a member of the AMZ Affiliate Bootcamp is not going to have to pay a listing fee that has been waived for you. Now, of course, the success fee, ultimately, when we do business and when we sell your site for you, we do get paid on that. So we get a 15% commission fee on the sale of the site. So basically, we don't get paid unless you do. All right, so the next question, where can I submit my site for sale? It's really easy. There's a form you're going to need to fill out on our website. It's at empireflippers.com/special-offer-listing-form. Now, that's a little bit of a mouthful, so we're going to have a link for you to be able to click and go over there. As you get to the form, there's an option at the top for you to select where you found us from. Just select Cloud Living from the drop-down, and we'll make sure that you get your free listing submission. Now, I should warn you that not every site that's submitted with Empire Flippers actually goes live and is available to sell to our buyers. We have a vetting process that we're going to get into in the next lesson that actually weeds out sites where the information doesn't match or it's not particularly a good fit for our buyers. Now, this actually protects both our buyers and our other sellers because our buyers know what to expect from our listings and are looking for very particular things. If we, for whatever reason, reject your site, We're going to let you know the reason why, let you know the site was rejected, and ultimately it's just to protect our buyers and sellers in our marketplace. It also means there's a pretty good chance we wouldn't have been able to sell your site anyway. So if we're rejecting it, it's not likely it would have been sold. One more thing, the vetting process or the approval process from the time you submit generally takes between 1 to 2 weeks. Normally about a week for Amazon affiliate sites because they're much easier to verify than some of the other businesses that we sell. All right, so that was lesson 2, preparing and listing your website for sale. The next lessons are going to be lesson 3, negotiating the sales process, and lesson 4, becoming a website selling and buying pro.